After 18 years, a heartwarming truth revealed Millionaire's life-changing moment in court. The courthouse loomed ahead like a fortress, its towering pillars casting long shadows that chilled Jake Thompson to the bone. He brushed a hand through his weathered hair, reminding himself of the purpose behind his presence. The loss of his estranged brother, Thomas, once a distant figure in Jake's world, now dragged him into a battle he never wanted. Millions in estate, fancy suits, and a life Jake had only seen in movies were about to collide with his simple farm life, and he could feel the tension seeping into his bones. Stepping inside, whispers danced through the air like gnats. Wealthy businessmen huddled in their tailored suits, glancing at Jake with disdain. He was just a farmer, a man who tilled the earth and hunted to put food on the table for his 2 kids, Emma and Ben. But in this world they saw him as less. What is he doing here? Someone sneered, and it felt like a punch to Jake's gut. His heart raced as feelings of inadequacy gnawed at him. And yet amidst this hostile atmosphere, Jake clung to the memory of his wife, who had once reminded him that worth didn't come from the numbers in a bank account, but from love, hard work, and loyalty. "You're doing this for Emma and Ben," he whispered to himself, feeling their little arms wrap around him in countless moments of comfort. That bond was the bedrock of his life, a treasure wealth could never touch. As the court session began, memories of childhood flickered through Jake's mind. Laughter, shared dreams, and the thrill of adventure in their small-town backyard. But pride had torn them apart, molding Thomas into someone Jake hardly recognized. Jake wasn't fighting just for money. He was fighting for the memory of a brother who once understood family. The judge entered, and Jake felt the weight of expectation on his shoulders. His heart pounded. He could almost hear Emma and Ben urging him on. In a moment of sheer bravery, he rose to his feet. "Your Honor," he began, his voice steady yet trembling with emotion. "My brother was a good man before he became lost in the chase for money. We grew up together, full of dreams." Before he could finish, murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Judges and wealthy spectators began to see beyond the farmer's tattered jeans, glimpsing the spirit of love he spoke of. Just as the hope began to swell within him, a voice cut through the tension. A shocking revelation about Thomas's final wishes echoed off the walls, leaving the room in stunned silence. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Jake stood frozen, heart racing, every breath heavy with uncertainty. Would this revelation tear his family apart? Or could it somehow repair the frayed threads of their legacy? He could feel the air thickening with unresolved questions. The fight for fortune had morphed into a fight for family, a journey that might just uncover the true meaning of worth. A battle not just about wealth but filled with the shaky hope of redemption and connection, leaving everyone, especially Jake, on the edge of an emotional cliff. The courtroom buzz faded into an eerie silence as the judge turned to face Jake, brow furrowed with curiosity. "Mr. Thompson," he addressed, his tone neutral but the weight of the moment heavy in the air. "We have just heard that your brother Thomas left behind a letter detailing his final wishes." Jake felt his heart drop. What could Thomas possibly want to say? Had he thought of Jake at all after all those years? Would there be an apology? A plea for forgiveness? "Please proceed," Jake's voice barely emerged, a whisper against the charged atmosphere. The judge nodded, gesturing for the attorney representing the estate to stand. The attorney cleared his throat, shuffling a stack of papers nervously. "Your Honor, within this letter, Thomas expressed an intention to ensure that his legacy honored the family he once cherished. He couldn't change the past, but he wished to give back to the community." He paused, gauging the room, then continued, "The estate is to be divided, with the majority allocated to a charity aimed at supporting farm families and local youth programs." A mix of gasps and murmurs traveled through the crowd. Jake's stomach twisted. This was unexpected, a blessing or a curse? However, the attorney continued, "Thomas specified that a portion would go directly to his brother." Jake, every eye in the room turned to him. Jake's breath hitched. He hadn't expected anything. All those years of distance, and now Thomas was reaching out, in hopes that he would rebuild the farm and provide for his children. Provided that this will be honored, he requests a formal reconciliation. Reconciliation? The weight of the word hung heavily in Jake's chest. Could Thomas really mean this? After everything? The room erupted in low conversations, wealth and judgment swirling like a storm. Why him? Someone muttered. Doesn't he deserve it? Jake felt the sneers clawing at his self-worth. But as he stood there, the anger and envy swirling around him faded. He thought of Emma and Ben, what this could mean for their future. Your Honor, Jake interjected, feeling newfound strength. This wasn't about charity or money. It's about family. The years lost can never be replaced, but if there's even a chance to honor what we had, to heal the wounds, then I'm willing to try. A moment of silence washed over the courtroom, heavy with the weight of his words. The judge nodded thoughtfully, clearly moved. I'll decide if and how this will proceed, the judge said slowly. But Jake, you must realize, the road to reconciliation is not an easy one. You must be willing to confront the past head-on. Jake's heart raced at the thought. Could he really do it? Could he face the pain and resentment? The reluctance of the wealthy relatives hung like a cloud over him. As he noticed Emma and Ben sitting in the back, their innocent faces filled with hope, he found his answer. I will, he declared, determination flooding his voice. But just as the judge nodded, an unexpected figure barged into the courtroom, a tall man in a tailored suit, with an air of confidence that dripped tension. He scanned the crowd, his eyes locking onto Jake, and then he spoke words that pierced through the charged air. Not so fast, Jake. You don't know the whole truth about Thomas yet. The courtroom fell silent once more as fear and curiosity gripped Jake's heart, feeling more alive than ever in this storm of revelation. Who was this man? And what truth could possibly complicate this moment further? The tall man stepped further into the courtroom, his presence commanding instant attention. Jake's heart pounded in his chest, a mix of dread and curiosity bubbling up inside him. The whispers of the crowd faded, replaced by a heavy silence, as if everyone was holding their breath. Who are you? Jake managed to ask, his voice firm but trembling slightly. The man smirked like he was relishing the moment. The name's Adrian Barrett, he declared, his tone dripping with confidence. I had a unique relationship with your brother, Thomas. Every eye in the room shifted back and forth between Jake and Adrian, the tension palpable. Jake felt his stomach twist. He wasn't sure if he wanted to hear what this stranger had to say. Thomas, Adrian continued, might have left a charity legacy, but there's much more to his story, a story that involves you, Jake, whether you want it to or not. What do you mean? Jake asked, his mind racing. Adrian took a step closer, his voice lowering, as if sharing a deep secret. Thomas and I were partners in more ways than one. We had plans, big plans, dreams that extended beyond the farm and into the business world. Jake's mind processed the words partners? In business? That sounded like betrayal. And you're here to do what exactly? The edge in his voice was unmistakable. Adrian shrugged nonchalantly. I'm here because Thomas made some important decisions before he passed. Decisions he wanted you to be aware of, not just regarding his estate but regarding your own life. The courtroom was a minefield of emotions, confusion, suspicion, and even hope began to swirl in Jake's mind. He glanced back at Emma and Ben. What could this mean for them? Your brother's wishes don't just end with the charity, Adrian pressed on, his eyes glinting with a mix of determination and empathy. He wanted to mend things with you, but also, he wanted to ensure you knew the potential that existed beyond the farm. You and your children could so much more. A deep ache gripped at Jake's chest. Was this true? Could he really rebuild not just the farm but their broken family? Why should I trust you? Jake shot back, his voice steady despite the whirlwind inside. You could be here for your benefit, not Thomas's. Adrian's expression softened. Because I stood alongside Thomas when he fought his battles. I saw the man he longed to be, not just for himself but for you too. I genuinely believe he wanted to see the family he lost find some sense of peace. Jake felt the weight of every word. Did Thomas truly want this? Could Jake truly believe it? Please. Just tell me everything, he finally requested, his voice almost a whisper now. Then let us not waste any time. Adrian smiled, his posture straightening. It's going to take courage, Jake, But if you're willing to listen, I can show you Thomas's legacy in a way you never expected. As the words hung over the room, Jake's pulse quickened. Could he really dive into this tangled web? His thoughts swirled with a mixture of uncertainty and a flicker of hope. Are you ready to hear the truth? Adrian asked, and in that moment, with everyone watching, Jake realized this may be the most pivotal moment of his life. He took a deep breath. I am, he replied, feeling the shift in the courtroom and electric anticipation that hung in the air. But before Adrian could speak again, the courtroom doors burst open, and a familiar voice shattered the tension. Jake, wait. You need to know who I really am. Jake felt a jolt of shock as he turned toward the unexpected voice. What more surprises were waiting for him? Jake's heart raced as he recognized the voice. The crowd shifted and all eyes turned, straining to catch a glimpse of the new arrival. From behind the wooden doors, a woman stepped forward, her pale face flushed and her hands trembling. Catherine. He breathed, disbelief washing over him like cold water. It had been nearly 2 decades since he last laid eyes on her. The whispers in the courtroom grew louder, curiosity igniting the energy in the air. Jake, please, she pleaded, her voice breaking. I didn't want to interrupt, but you need to hear me. This is bigger than you think. Adrian's expression turned serious, his posture shifting as if the room's gravity had permanently altered. Jake took an involuntary step back, still grappling with the shock of her presence. Catherine had vanished all those years ago, leaving behind only questions and a heavy silence in their lives. What do you mean? He struggled to keep his voice steady, his thoughts racing. Was this just another twist in an already tangled web? I'm here because of Thomas and the legacy he left behind, she stammered, her eyes glistening. He kept so much hidden, Jake. More than you know. Jake clenched his fists, trying to contain his emotions. Why now? After all this time? Because I found something, she explained, stepping closer as if trying to bridge the gap between them. A letter. Thomas wrote it just days before. Before he died. It was meant for you and for me. Adrian shifted, clearly weighing the weight of her words. The spectators leaned forward in their seats, caught between wonder and skepticism. He wanted you to be strong, Catherine continued, her voice rising slightly. But he also wanted you to understand the truth of our connection. There is so much more than you've ever dreamed of. The courtroom buzzed, the uncertainty palpable. Jake's mind reeled. You and Thomas? What does that mean? Catherine took a breath, visibly shaking. It means there's more to your family than you know. It means you inherited something significant from both of us. Jake felt like he was being pulled in 100 different directions. His heart ached with memories of loss and longing. What kind of inheritance are we talking about? As if sensing his turmoil, Adrian stepped forward. Jake, Thomas believed in second chances. He wanted you to find this out together, to reconcile everything, the past, the mistakes, and what could be. Questions swirled in Jake's mind, the painful memories spilling over. Had all this anguish been for nothing? Why didn't you come sooner? He shot back at Catherine, desperation creeping into his voice. I was afraid. Afraid of the repercussions, of the secrets we kept, she confessed, holding his gaze. Tears spilled down her cheeks. But it's your life, and you deserve to know the truth. Adrian nodded, his expression softening with empathy. We're here to help you, Jake. You won't have to face this alone. Jake looked between them, feeling like the weight of the world rested on his shoulders. Was this his chance to finally rise above all the hurt and mistrust? Do you really want to help me? He asked, vulnerability cracking through his tough exterior. More than anything, Catherine replied, her voice steady now. In that moment something shifted. The fear began to melt away, leaving room for a fragile hope to grow. He took a step forward, his heart pounding with the possibility of truth and reconciliation. Before he could respond, a sharp voice broke through the tension again. Don't you see? It's all a lie. The courtroom hushed, confusion wrapping around everyone's eagerly awaiting ears once more. Jake's pulse quickened. What other truths lay buried beneath the lies? As he turned towards the voice, he felt the weight of his choices press down on him. Jake's eyes locked onto the figure stepping into the light, a young man standing near the back of the room. The tension crackled as the crowd shifted uncomfortably, whispers rising like a wave. Who was he? And what did he mean by it's all a lie? I'm Jake's brother. The young man yelled, his voice piercing through the stillness like a knife. The word brother hung in the air, heavy with implication. Jake's heart raced, disbelief twisting within him. "What are you talking about?" he demanded, trying to process this sudden revelation. The young man took a bold step forward, determination fueling his every move. "You don't even know your own family, do you? I've been looking for you my whole life," he declared, eyes ablaze with urgency. Catherine shivered next to Jake, her hand shaking as she grasped his arm. "Jake, please, this is not the way," she stammered, glancing nervously at the new arrival. "Everything you thought you knew is wrong." The young man continued, shaking his head fervently. "Thomas was not just your father. He had a whole different life before you. Secrets that could change everything." The whispers grew louder now, the crowd caught in a fever pitch of speculation. Jake felt the weight of expectations crashing down, the shadows of his past hovering like ghosts. "What do you mean?" he asked, fear mixing with a flicker of anger. "The financial empire he built wasn't just for you. There are others, people who were meant to be part of this legacy." The words rushed out like a flood, raw and unrefined. "Enough." Adrian's commanding voice boomed through the room, trying to regain control. But Jake was already consumed by the chaos of the moment. His insides churned. Who was this young man, and how did he fit into the puzzle of his family history? "Why should I believe you?" Jake's voice was steady, bolstered by a mix of defiance and vulnerability. How could he trust anyone in this whirlwind of uncertainty? "Because I have proof," the brother replied, frustration lacing his tone. "I found documents, pictures, things that show we're connected. I know Thomas's story better than you do, and I can prove it." Jake's heart raced as his mind raced with possibilities. Images of the life he had built, the family he thought was complete, shattered like glass. "What kind of proof?" "Enough to show you that you've been living a lie, a carefully constructed lie." The air crackled again, this time charged with tension and anticipation. The crowd leaned in, eager for a deeper glimpse into a family saga that held so much mystery. Catherine looked at Jake, eyes pleading. "You can't just dismiss what he's saying. If there's any truth in that, Jake." Adrian interjected, a note of warning in his voice. "You need to think this through. This could change everything you know about your life." Jake swallowed hard, feeling the full weight of the moment bearing down on him. His world felt like it was crumbling. Yet he also felt a surge of curiosity. What if, just what if, this young man was telling the truth? The young man moved closer, his voice quieter now but still intense. "You deserve to know who you really are, Jake. To uncover the truth behind the man who raised you." "Stop." Jake's heart raced. The world felt unreal. Could he truly allow this storm of revelations to unfold? Could he face the truth, whatever it might be? As silence drew back over the courtroom once more, Jake hung on the precipice of his past and future. The shadows of doubt loomed larger than ever. His eyes met the brother's, sparked with a fierceness that mirrored his own. "I'll hear you out," he said finally, the resolve in his voice awakening a glimmer of hope for the first time in years. "But know this, if you're lying, I will not forgive you." A slow nod confirmed the young man's understanding. "Fair enough. But if I'm telling the truth, you won't just gain a brother. You'll find out who you really are." Just like that, Jake felt the ground shift beneath him, excitement mixed with trepidation brewing within. What lay ahead would redefine everything he thought he knew. As Jake prepared to confront not just his own identity but the broader implications of this newfound connection, one question gnawed at him relentlessly. Was he ready for what awaited him? Jake took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment bear down on him. The room felt smaller, the air thicker, as he looked from his brother to the crowd that hung on every word. He could sense their curiosity, their hunger for drama. But this wasn't just a performance. This was his life. "Let us hear it then," Jake said, his voice steadier than he felt. The challenge was as much for himself as it was for the young man who claimed to be his brother. The young man smiled, a glimmer of relief breaking through his intense demeanor. "Thank you. My name is Alex, and I'll start with my life, the life I should be lived beside you." As Alex spoke, Jake tried to focus, but images of his childhood wafted through his mind. Family gatherings, birthday parties, the tight-knit bond he shared with Thomas. Could it be that all of it was meaningless in light of these revelations? "I grew up in a different world," Alex began, his voice thick with emotion. One where your father's past loomed over us. He was a mystery. I was never allowed to use his name. Always just the boy. I thought if I kept looking for the truth, I might understand him and maybe myself. Jake felt a stir of empathy for his brother. He could feel the pain radiating from Alex, as he described the fragmented pieces of a life that was never whole. Why didn't you come sooner? Jake asked, the rawness of his curiosity pushing through. I wasn't ready, Alex replied, his eyes glistening. I was always afraid of what it would mean if I found you. But I have the proof. Pictures records everything. Show me, Jake insisted, urgency in his tone. The rest of the room faded away. Alex pulled out a folder, worn around the edges but filled with moments that felt like another life altogether. He laid out photographs, showing a younger Thomas surrounded by other people, strange faces that didn't fit into Jake's meticulously stitched memories. This is your father with my mother, Alex said, pointing to a photo where a woman smiled up at Thomas, eyes bright with love. The resemblance was startling. Jake's breath hitched. They were in love, but circumstance tore them apart. When my mother died, she left me with questions. Who was my father? Why wasn't I with him? Jake swallowed hard, his throat constricted. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was standing at the edge of a gaping chasm. So you're saying that our father had a family before us? Before me? Before he built that empire, Alex affirmed, his voice softening. He didn't just leave a legacy. He left behind a life that meant something. Something that connects us. You have the right to know the truth, Jake. All of it. Catherine squeezed Jake's hand, her eyes wide with shock. He could feel her pulse racing beside him. Every revelation brought new questions, and the urgency accelerated with each breath. But why reveal this now? Jake asked, desperation creeping into his voice. Why not earlier? Alex hesitated, the weight of the silent moment nearly crushing. Because when Thomas passed away, the walls of secrecy began to crumble. I found the documents, the hidden truths. I had to know if you were open to these revelations. If you wanted to find your true family. The air felt electric, charged with emotions that ran deep. Jake's heart raced with unbridled tension. What if this was all true? What if he had spent years carrying a burden built on lies? The thought was almost unbearable. Jake, Catherine whispered, her voice pleading. This could change everything for you. Your future, our future. As Jake glanced down at the photographs, doubt and hope collided within him. The truth hung tantalizingly close, like a melody just out of reach. Could he embrace this new reality? The prospect frightened him more than he cared to admit. I need time, he began to say, but Alex interrupted. Time isn't something we have. You need to know who you are and where you come from. I can help you find that. Jake felt the crowd's eyes fixated upon him, like a spotlight drawing attention to the enormity of the decision he faced. Was he ready to peel back the layers of his father's past, risking everything he ever thought he knew to unearth secrets that could redefine his identity? It was a crossroads, a moment that could shatter everything or set him free. Let us do this, he declared, a surge of determination rising within. I need to understand. But with those words, a sudden chill swept through the room. In that quiet hesitation, a new fear emerged. What if the truth was darker than he could bear? What awaited him on the other side of these walls of secrecy? The room fell silent, a collective breath held tight. Jake could feel a heavy gaze on him, eyes widened with expectation, some whispers barely audible in the stillness. Alex's expression flickered between hope and anxiety, as if he too feared the outcome of this revelation. What if I don't like what I find? Jake's voice trembled slightly. You won't know unless you step forward, Alex replied, his voice steady, but there was an undercurrent of urgency. Every family has dark corners. It's how we deal with them that shapes us. The crowd shifted, each person instinctively leaning closer, caught in a moment that felt ripe with destiny. Jake's heart raced, and he felt as if the walls were closing in. Photographs remained scattered on the table, memories frozen in time that had never belonged to him. All right, let us start with what you have, Jake said, trying to summon courage. His words wavered, revealing the uncertainty beneath. What do I need to know? Alex nodded, gathering his thoughts as he organized the papers. It's about who your father was before all the wealth and power. The man in those pictures was not just a businessman. He had dreams, regrets, and he loved deeply. Your father carried a burden of choices. You deserve to know who he really was. With a slight pause, Alex picked up a picture of the young couple, their smiles bright against a backdrop of sun-drenched happiness. This was them before the empire, before the secrets. They had a real life. Jake leaned in, his pulse quickening as he studied the image. Thomas looked carefree, as if the weight of the world had yet to settle on his shoulders. It was hard to reconcile this man with the version he knew, the father who had shaped his life and values. What happened to her? Jake's voice was barely above a whisper, heavy with emotion. She was a victim of circumstances, Alex replied, the pain evident in his voice. Your father was torn between two worlds, and in the end, he chose the one that offered stability, but it came at a cost. He lost part of himself in that choice. The air in the room shifted as Jake processed the gravity of Alex's words. He could feel Catherine's hand tighten around his, a grounding force amid the turmoil. What were those choices? The question slipped out before he could stop it, curiosity battling with trepidation. It doesn't stop there. Alex continued, hesitating, as if afraid to let the truth spill. There are financial records, letters, confessions that detail missteps, betrayals, and the struggles of trying to build an empire, a legacy he thought would bring peace but led to nothing but turmoil. Jake's chest tightened. Could the man he idolized be responsible for wounds that ran deeper than he could imagine? He flashed back to conversations with Thomas, always about hard work, dedication, and family. But what if there were shadows that changed those values? Jake, you deserve answers, Alex urged. I'm not here to harm you, but to help you see the complete picture. This isn't just about your father. It's about you discovering who you are in the midst of these revelations. As Jake absorbed this new information, the room felt different. The air stirred with a mix of fear and possibility. Catherine's eyes searched his, silently begging for him to embrace this journey, no matter how daunting. Are you ready? Alex asked, offering his hand to Jake, as though extending a lifeline into unknown waters. Jake looked down at the scattered pieces of a life he thought he understood. I think so, he said slowly, the uncertainty still present but interwoven with a spark of hope. The promise of truth loomed ahead, both daunting and exhilarating. He felt the eyes of the crowd pressing against him, waiting, wondering if this family scandal would shatter their illusions of his perfect upbringing. Then let us begin, Alex said, and just as he spoke, the lights in the room flickered, leaving behind the tension of darkened anticipation. In that instant, Jake knew he was on the precipice of change. But just as the ground beneath him began to shift, a commotion erupted at the back of the room, a figure breaking through the crowd. Stop! You don't know what you're getting into. A voice cried out, sending shockwaves of uncertainty through the silence. Jake's heart raced again. Who was this intervener? What truths would they expose? The new challenge loomed heavy, leaving him on the brink of something vastly unpredictable. Jake's gaze darted towards the voice that interrupted his fragile moment of courage. The figure pushing through the crowd was a woman, her hair wild and eyes aflame with desperation. She had an energy that cut through the tension in the room, like a lightning strike illuminating a dark sky. Please just think for a moment, she pleaded, her words tumbling out in a frantic rush. You can't trust everything you hear. There are layers to this story that you don't understand. Jake's mind whirled with confusion. Who was this woman? Why did she seem to care so deeply about the truth of his father's past? Enough. Alex's voice dripped with authority. You're distorting what needs to be revealed here. The woman stumbled slightly as if the mere weight of Alex's words threw her off balance. But she recovered quickly, her eyes now scanning the room, locking onto Jake's. I never meant for you to find out like this, she said, her tone shifting to a softer plea. You deserve to know, yes, but you also deserve to have the whole truth. Your father was frightened. And for good reason. The crowd shifted uneasily, caught between this unexpected interloper and the discomfort of Jake's unfolding family saga. Jake felt the intensity in the air, a palpable mix of curiosity and unease stirring within him. He couldn't look away from her, as if she held the keys to a door he hadn't even known existed. Who are you? He finally asked, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. I'm Lily, she said, a hint of vulnerability breaking through her fierceness. I knew your father before everything changed. He loved your mother fiercely, but There were secrets. Things that he was forced to bury. A wave of disbelief washed over Jake. His father a complex man with buried secrets? It felt like a dagger twisting in his gut. And what have you got to do with it? He pressed, urgency threaded through his question. I was part of a life he could never embrace, Lily confessed, her voice trembling but firm. He loved her but he made sacrifices. I cared for him in the shadows, seeing his struggle firsthand. But I was also a part of the darkness he created. The mistakes he hoped you wouldn't inherit. The weight of her words settled in the room, resonating with an unsettling truth. Jake could feel the fragments of his life shifting. The last brick of the idealized father he tried to cling to was crumbling, revealing something raw and jagged beneath. Alex stepped forward, anger flashing in his eyes. Enough. This isn't your moment. He needs to focus on the truth of what his family has built a legacy. Is it really a legacy? Lily shot back undeterred. Or is it a house of cards ready to fall? Jake deserves to make an informed choice about whose legacy he is inheriting. The room echoed with her words, the gravity of a new reality piercing through Jake's mind. What if everything he thought he knew about his family and himself was laced with deception? Catherine squeezed his hand tighter, sharing his turmoil. Jake, what do you want? Her voice was soft yet firm, anchoring him in the chaos. He looked between the two women, the uncertainty shifting like the ground beneath him. The truth loomed over him now, a double-edged sword of clarity and pain. He felt that he was at a crossroads not just of family history but his own identity. I want to know everything, he finally said, each word heavy with determination. But I want it unfiltered. All of it. As the words left his lips, the room collectively inhaled. He could feel the weight of eyes upon him once more, but this time the intensity felt like solidarity. I want to understand who I really am. And who my father truly was. With that declaration, an unexpected calm settled in the room. But before anyone could respond, Jake noticed a flicker of movement in the shadows behind Lily. Another figure stepped forward, a look of recognition crossing her face, as she called out, wait. There's more you need to hear. What could this new revelation possibly mean for Jake? The air thickened with questions, leaving him on the edge of revelation. And chaos, desire and trepidation. The new figure emerged from the shadows, her presence instantly commanding attention. It was as if she radiated familiarity, though Jake couldn't quite place her. The murmur in the crowd faded, anticipation heavy in the air. This was the moment that could change everything. Please, you need to listen to me, she said. Her voice steady yet filled with emotion. My name is Becca. I'm your aunt. Jake's heart raced at the revelation. An aunt? Where had she been all this time? Confusion washed over him, but before he could voice his disbelief, Becca stepped closer. I'm sorry for not being a part of your life. Your father wanted to protect you from our family's past, she continued, a haunted look etched on her face. He thought he was keeping you safe by keeping me away. But the truth is, he was just as scared of our family's history as you are now. Jake's pulse quickened. The implications of her words sank in. What history? What did he not know? He searched her face, looking for answers. Alex, sensing the shift in the room, barked, this is ridiculous. We're not here to entertain wild claims. Jake, focus on what matters. No, Alex. Jake fired back, anger igniting within him. I deserve to hear her. We all deserve to know what's really going on. Lily nodded, her expression one of fierce encouragement. Listen to them, Jake. It's a tangled web, but you need to unravel it for your own peace. Becca took a breath, visibly gathering her thoughts. There's so much I could tell you about your father, things that shaped him, things you need to understand. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. But first, it all started with a mistake. A decision made out of fear. What mistake? Jake pressed, his voice cracking with emotion. What kind of fear? She glanced around the room, gauging the weight of all those eyes before locking her gaze back on him. Your father was part of something dangerous. A partnership gone wrong, a web of deceit and betrayal. It was a part of his life he never wanted you to inherit. To him, silence was the only way to protect you. Every word felt like a punch to Jake's gut. The idea that his father had lived with such a heavy burden twisted inside him. He had thought of his father as a man with simple aspirations, Yet there was a dark complexity beneath it all. Catherine squeezed his hand tighter. "Jake, you don't have to do this if you're not ready." "I am ready," he said firmly, his voice breaking slightly. "I need to understand. I can't walk away from this." Becca took a step forward, her eyes pleading. "Your dad thought hiding the truth would protect you, but you deserve to know. You deserve to choose your own path, even if it's rooted in a legacy you never wanted." Jake absorbed her words. The heaviness in his chest intensified. He was wrestling with the possibility of losing the father he had idolized. What could this legacy mean for him? "Jake, if you unravel this mystery, you might discover more about yourself than you ever anticipated," Lily added, her voice trembling with sincerity. "Are you willing to take that risk? To open up that door?" Becca prodded gently, her gaze unwavering. He felt the weight of the decision pressing in on him, a mixture of fear and hope. Could he face the shadow of the man he wanted to know? As the questions hung in the air, the room pulsed with anticipation. The truth felt so close yet so perilous. Jake swallowed hard, feeling the ground beneath him shift once more. "Yes," he breathed, filled with determination. "I need to know. All of it." But just as he spoke the words, the lights flickered, plunging the room into sudden darkness. A collective gasp echoed around him. In the heavy silence, Jake could feel the weight of unanswered questions pressing down like a thick fog. What had just gone wrong? Was this darkness a sign of the chaos to come? As the lights flickered back on, every eye in the room was fixed on Jake, anticipation thick in the air. The darkness had felt ominous, like a prelude to a storm brewing just out of sight. But now, with the light restored, Jake sensed a new resolve blooming within him, a burning desire to face the truth head-on, no matter how painful it might be. "All right, Becca," he said, his voice steady. "Tell me everything. I can handle it." Everyone leaned in closer, their breaths held in a shared sense of vulnerability. Becca nodded slowly, a mixture of sadness and strength in her eyes. "Your father was involved in a business partnership that spiraled out of control. The world he built was built on shifting sands," she began, her words gentle yet firm. "He made enemies along the way, some dangerous and others deeply influential. But he also left a legacy of compassion hidden beneath all that greed and ambition." Jake listened intently, heart racing with each revelation. "Then there was your mother," Becca continued, her voice softer. "She was connected to a different part of this story, one your father never let cross into your world. She had secrets of her own, inherited from a family with a history of sacrifices made for survival." The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fit together, but they painted a picture far more complex than Jake could have fathomed. Images of his childhood filled his mind, not just the happy moments but the gaps he had learned to ignore. "I always wondered why it was so hard for Dad to talk about the past," Jake muttered, the realization heavy. "He shielded us from something that weighed on him." "Because he loved you," Becca replied, her voice quaking with sincerity. "He believed that ignorance was protection. But the truth is, the past shapes us all whether we acknowledge it or not." The thought hung heavily in the room. What did he sacrifice to keep us safe? Jake asked quietly. Becca took a deep breath, her expression reflecting a lifetime of anxiety. "I can't share all the details without causing more pain. But there were mistakes, debts owed, people he couldn't shake off. He did what he thought was best to shield you from that darkness. How could he think this was a blessing?" Jake felt frustration bubbling up. How could he believe that keeping secrets would protect us? "Fear can blind us," Becca said gently. "It can create walls instead of bridges." She paused, letting the gravity of her words sink in. "But you have the choice now to tear those walls down." Jake turned to find Lily watching him with a mixture of understanding and encouragement. In her gaze he felt the warmth of solidarity, a reminder that he didn't have to walk this path alone. "Then let us do this together," he said, resolution filling his voice. "Let us uncover the truth of our family together." Just then the courtroom buzzed with murmurs of surprise, excitement, and a hint of apprehension. People exchanged glances, some clearly eager to hear more, while others were apprehensive about where this revelation might lead. As Jake stood in that moment, surrounded by the ghostly echoes of his father's legacy, he felt more alive than ever. The past had haunted him for so long, but it was time to embrace it, to reclaim not only who he was but who his family had been. Jake straightened his shoulders, a new light shimmering in his eyes. Let us get to the bottom of this. I want to see everything, documents, stories, whatever it takes. I need to understand who my father really was and how his choices impacted all of us. The determination in his voice resonated like a rallying cry, igniting something in the room. Becca nodded and Alex stepped forward as well, his expression shifting from protectiveness to resolve. I'll help you, Alex said, his eyes holding a newfound trust in Jake. We'll sort through it all together. Slim hope bloomed amidst the chaos, a chance for healing taking root. It wasn't just about understanding the shadows cast by Thomas's past, but about embarking on a journey toward reconciliation, both with the man he held dear and the family that had been introduced to him. As the courtroom began to erupt in conversation, Jake felt a sense of unity beneath the tension. He wasn't just a farmer anymore. He was part of a larger tapestry, ready to unravel the threads and weave something fresh, something full of hope, understanding, and love. Together, Jake said again firmly, let us uncover the truth and build a legacy of honesty from here on out. The crowd responded with murmurs of agreement, the air buzzing with potential and promise. In that moment, Jake knew this was not just an ending, it was a beginning. A chance to redefine his family and himself. Step by step, as the pieces of their story came together, he could finally face the future without the weight of deception holding him back. And just like that, he felt lighter, a burden lifted off his shoulders. The journey ahead was still shrouded in uncertainty, but the path was clear. It was time to embrace the truth, come what may. As Jake stepped forward, flanked by new allies and kindred spirits, his heart swelled with possibility. The past was a part of him, one he would honor, but it wouldn't dictate his future. He turned to face the crowd, cupping his hands around his mouth. Let us go forward and embrace each other in the light of the truth. We all deserve that. The applause erupted, echoes of hope resonating throughout the room. And just like that, as he stood surrounded by those who mattered, he felt ready for whatever was to come. Now, as this chapter closes, know that this journey doesn't end here. You need to subscribe now to keep up with our evolving story, the unfolding truths that still lie ahead. This is the moment to show your support. Hit that like button now, it fuels our passion and drives forward the algorithm. Comment your thoughts, emotions, and the feelings this story has stirred within you. And wait, don't skip this. Share this video immediately with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation and the power of love and truth. Don't wait, not even one more second. Together, let us build a community anchored in understanding and connection.